This is my 2021 Commencal TR. This is the race build, and today I'm gonna talk about the bike and my thoughts on how it rides. But before we do, let me just give you a little bit of backstory, I guess, so that I don't know, I think it'll add value to the information that I'm gonna share. And so just hang in there for about a minute or so. I've owned quite a few bikes over the last 6 years. This is actually my fourth Meta. I've had 3 AMs. I had the 2016, I had the 2018, the 2020. But again, the first 3, 16, 18, and 20 were Metas AMs, and this is my first TR. I decided to go with the TR because it's a little bit more conservative, I guess, in terms of the geometry changes that Commencal made to their 2021 lineup. The AM, it's borderline downhill, right? It's very DH oriented, and it's right there with their downhill bike, the Supreme, in terms of how slack and long it is. And so I decided to go with the TR because it kind of fits more my style and the type of riding that I do, as well as the trails that I ride. I just came off of 2 carbon bikes. I rode a Pivot Firebird for an entire year. I sold it. I jumped on a Ritmo 2021 version 2. Love that bike. I sold the Pivot only because it had been a year, and I like to swap out bikes at least every year. And there's a reason for that, but that's for another time. I jumped on the Ritmo, and I love the Ritmo. Super poppy, efficient climber, and is just all around fun bike. However, it was a medium, and I found that the medium was just slightly not big enough for me in terms of the wheelbase. And so I decided to sell it, and I actually was on the market for another Ritmo, and I couldn't find one at my budget, right? So I turned over to, my attention to Commencal again, because again, I'd ridden 3 of their bikes in the past, and I loved them. Probably some of the most fun times I've had has been on the Metas. And so here we are, right? 2021. Everything is stock on this Meta, with the exception of my shock. So it came stock with a coil, and it was a RockShox Super Deluxe Ultimate coil, and I decided to swap it out for an air can or an air shock because of the weight savings. Want to take a guess at how much this bike weighs? It came in at 36.2 pounds, I think. How it is right there. I know I saved approximately 6 to 8 ounces on the shock. I do care about the weight, especially coming off of 2 carbon bikes, right? And the Ritmo, I think, was just at 32. And so hauling this bike up the hill, 36 pounds or 37 with the coil shock, it still is, I'm still getting used to it. So let's begin the review with 3 things that I do not like about the bike. The first is the weight. Now the weight, and it's a little bit noisy up here because it got some planes, but the weight I can deal with. I can deal with the weight, but it is getting me, or it's taking me some time getting used to it, because again, I just came off of a 32-pound bike, and now I jumped on a 37-pound bike. Now it's 36, and hopefully with some carbon wheels and a few other part swaps, I can bring it down like at 35, and then I should be good. So the weight is definitely a factor to consider if you're looking at jumping on this bike. The weight does, however, have a positive spin to it, right? You're more grounded and you're not getting bounced around as you would on a super lightweight bike. And so the weight does help when you're descending. The second thing that I need to swap out here rather quickly is this 50 mil stem. It's just too big of a stem, too long of a stem. I'm gonna go down to probably a 32, 35, and that should just do it. So that's the second thing that I do not like. The third thing, it's this saddle, or yeah, the saddle and the dropper. So the saddle is the most uncomfortable saddle. It looks really clean, and it complements the bike really well, but it's just yeah, it's too harsh. The dropper post is a 150 mil dropper post, and as you can see, I would be able to slam it if it was 180. So I think those are the three things, right, that I said that I do not like. I made another video, a bike check video, where I talked about the hubs as well. The hubs are horrible, DT Swiss 370s. Other than that, the bike is truly amazing. Now, how does it climb? I have already basically touched on the weight, right? So the weight is something that's going to be a factor as you climb, but it's really efficient on the way up in terms of the pedaling platform that it has. Whether you're on that coil shock or you decide to go to an air shock like what I have, it's got a climb switch. You could use it or not. I climbed on the coil and it did rather well. So yeah, it's an efficient climber. I say it's right up there, very close to the Ritmo. The only thing is just that weight. Now, what about descending, right? It's what it's made for. A little short. The 64.5, I think, head tube angle makes it not super slack. It's got a 1230 wheelbase, which is the sweet spot for me. Super stable. Again, that weight helps to kind of keep you straight, but it doesn't impact, it doesn't come at a cost, I should say, when you hit the windy sections in the tight turns as you're going down. It's actually very responsive as well when it comes to having to make those quick turns and just being agile all around. The bike responds really well. Short. There's one more thing that I look at in terms of picking a bike, at least for me, for my preference, and this is huge to me, right? And it's a question that I always ask anytime I watch a review, is how does the bike accelerate when you boost out of a corner, when you hit that straightaway and you get on those pedals? How does it accelerate? Ooh, love that. Does it sink into its travel like the Capra did, or does it stay pretty, pretty firm and pretty efficient when you go to pedal? And so that's big to me, because I don't know, it's just a personal preference. I really like to maintain and gain momentum at every turn whenever possible, and yeah, so it's really big. Again, right, climbing is really good. Descending, it's amazing. Acceleration, it's top notch. So the only other thing I guess left to talk about is about jumping and how nimble and how easy it is to get up in the air. I'm still recovering from Now I'm fully recovered now, but I just had an injury on my left shoulder and I just got back on the bike, so my confidence isn't 100%. Again, you gotta muscle through that weight, but I am able to somewhat get it up in the air. Rather okay. I do feel the weight. One other thing, it's 160 mils of travel in the front, and then out back it's 140. But here's the thing, it does not feel like 160 and 140. Now I've heard that on many reviews and I've always wondered, like, what do you mean, what's that like, right? Like, what do you mean it doesn't feel like, you know, the travel that it is? And I don't know that I can explain it any better, but the last few bikes that I've been on, at least the Firebird that I was on, was 170, 162. When I'm on this bike, on the TR here, I don't worry about the 140 out in the back. I'm riding the same trails and it feels just as good as that 162 mil travel that my Firebird had. Up front, 160, just as capable as the 170 that was on both the Ritmo and the Firebird. Now I did take the Firebird out to, you know, the bike parks and what have you, and I just got this one, so I haven't yet. But I'm not, how do I say it, I'm not concerned, right? I think it's gonna do really well. So when I'm on this bike, I'm not necessarily thinking of whether I'm gonna bottom out or the suspension is just not gonna be enough. It's plenty of enough. Great bike all around. I highly recommend it, I guess, if you don't mind the weight. So that's my review on the Commencal Meta TR 2021, the race build. Obviously, you know, the other builds will come with different components, but the frame is the same. So I hope you enjoy this video. I hope that it brought some value to you and I didn't waste your time. If that's the case, then please share it, like it, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe now. Until next time, thanks for watching. Ride fast, don't die, and God bless. Woo.